Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest is Dr. Karen Kan. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about today. Sensitivity. What is sensitivity? How does it affect your health? Well, she says sensitivity is your superpower. Approximately a third of the people are highly sensitive, according to the latest research. That means that they can become easily stressed, and if they don't know how to take care of that sensitivity, it can be symptomatic. They can have difficulty in paying attention, feeling drained, depressed, anxious, or they may suffer from insomnia, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, bright lights, coarse fabrics, noxious smells, toxins, chemicals, gluten, even electromagnetic radiation from the devices can make them sick. So Dr. Karen is a medical doctor and a doctor of light medicine and the founder of the Academy of Light Medicine. She's also a best-selling author of multiple books, including Sensitivity Is Your Superpower, and the founder of, is it TOLPAKAN? Am I saying that right,
You
love?
got it right.
Yep,
Wow,
good, good.
impressive.
Right. Healing Method, and her mission is to help spiritually conscious people harness their superpowers so they can not only heal themselves, fulfill their mission, and create a life of joy. She's extremely passionate about this. You know, one of the things we're going to be talking about today, how does the weather influence you? Resolving conflict with telepathy, accessing your intuition more reliably, and healing faster than the speed of light, which we would all love to do. Welcome to the show, love.
Thank you, Sarah. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Now, the way that whole description there you just described me, I'm highly sensitive. I've been empathic my entire life. I am a spiritual channeler. And I have to say that I'm retreating more and more into a smaller arena because I am just feeling the sensitive, you know, the bombardment out there, the static, the angst, and it just gets to you, and you kind of more and more kind of turn the channels off because it really does have a negative effect on your entire well-being, doesn't it?
It absolutely can. And a third of the population, this is studies from 2018, is 10% more than it was in the 70s and 80s, which was 20%. So the
Mm.
same person did more research in 2018, Dr. Elaine Aron and her colleagues, and found that one third of us are highly sensitive. And in my experience, there's more and more and more people, and the young children growing up today are much more sensitive than the past. And one could like blame things like, electromagnetic radiation, and everyone has a smartphone and routers and things that, really stress our nervous system. So that's possibility. But I also think that the way the world is going, just the energies of the planet, the cosmos, are speeding up, if you will. And so these superpowers, which are our sensitivity, actually are expanding over time. So you're not staying at this one empathic ability. It's actually naturally growing more and more. So relatively speaking, that means feeling more. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm really passionate about, is helping people harness that and hone it so it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible gift. It really is. But it's navigating it, you know, and being able to actually channel that wonderful sensitivity, that wonderful intuitiveness, without it being kind of overloading. And I think the navigation is that with so much kind of going on out there, and, you know, don't forget, it used to be just microwaves caused the problem, you know,
Just
now we're just, right, yes. Now we're surrounded by everything. I mean, people have smart homes, you know, the fiber optics are everywhere. And we've got fiber optics in our body. Guess what? Our brain speaks to the rest of the body. And if it's kind of on overload, I mean, I read too thing that fibromyalgia, You really feel it, don't you?
Well, there's quite a pause there, Sarah, so you may
Oh,
need
I'm
to
sorry. Did you?
cut that
Would
part
you
out.
have another? Got another in,
Uh,
folks. We are having internet problems today. We're going to navigate through it. We're determined to get this show out. Bear with us if we have a few drops.
so you mentioned about fibromyalgia. So what was that? What did you say after that?
I have fibromyalgia and the fiber optics, the myofascial pain, the fiber optics in our body that makes our entire body work, and the highly sensitivity. And fibromyalgia is a high sensitivity disease in itself, right? Everything is heightened through fibromyalgia. And the amount of
Right.
people that have fibromyalgia, is it brought on by the sensitivity?
I find that pretty much 100% of people that I've worked with the same illness that I had labeled fibromyalgia. Now, just backing up a little bit, fibromyalgia is a catch-all term for
Mm-hmm.
a constellation of symptoms for which the Western medicine, conventional medicine, has no real significant scientific like diagnostic methodology for. It's just a bunch of symptoms they put in a pot and go, we don't know what else it is, so we're labeling it fibromyalgia. But in my personal experience as a medical doctor, an acupuncturist, and doctor of light medicine, pretty much 100% of people that have that diagnosis have this excess sensitivity, and no one is addressing it that
No,
way.
no, not at all. It's a disease. It's been upgraded to a disease. And, they've obviously put up the drugs for it, and then it's a disability and everything else. And it's like, it is a hodgepodge of so many things. But if you look at every single one of those things, it is screaming sensitivity, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. Basically, it's like the nervous system is being hijacked
Mm-hmm.
and is not well controlled. So there's that fatigue, there's the insomnia, or the reverse, where you sleep during the day and you wake at night. That's usually when it's fairly severe. And there's the overall body pain in multiple areas of the body, and that's kind of how they diagnose it and all these tender points. So it's amazing. When I had fibromyalgia, I felt like I was hit by a truck,
Yeah.
and that's what people describe. And now I know that symptom. And one of my first best-selling book was called Guide to Healing Chronic Pain: A Holistic Approach. And so I recognized that type of hit by a truck pain, the flu-like symptoms, is actually your lymphatic system that is basically congested, and that's why the pain is there. That's why that symptom is there. They never taught us that in medical school to
No,
go
no, no.
through it and learn it from other specialists.
I mean, nutrition or acupuncture
Oh,
or,
yeah.
anything that wasn't kind of attached to either being able to cut it up or pharmaceutical it is not really taught at medical school.
Embarrassingly, that's correct.
We hummed and hawed at the beginning whether to put this under your health is your choice genre or yeah, and the ignite your heart and soul, and it can go under both because our health is our choice, and when we know better on how to look after ourselves, we're making a choice to feed, the solutions rather than just go with the label. And when we are looking at the medical, and yes, let's face it, medical most certainly has its place. It's absolutely wonderful at taking care of a trauma or something at the moment. It's not um, the deep the deep issue type medicine, and it's not the root of the cause type medicine, right? Is it? I used to go to an acupuncturist who was just fantastic. I mean, the moment you go, ouch, you go, good, good. She's got to the point, right? And you came out of there feeling totally drained. And when you woke up, I mean, just kept my body supple and kept the flow, the chi through the energy all the time. Part of that sensitivity we go through is kind of blocked chi, isn't it? It's blocked energy.
Well, that pain symptom, especially in fibromyalgia and other pain syndromes in Chinese medicine, is blocked energy. And that what's so
Yeah.
interesting is it could be physical toxins, it could be emotional toxins, it could be energetic imbalances. There's all sorts of things that can kind of jam up our circuits and jam up our lymphatic system. So one of the things that I do in the TOLPAKAN is called the TOLPAKAN Healing Method. And we actually teach people how to use divine muscle testing to figure out which one of these things is the issue. Is it emotional? Is it mental? Is it dimensional? Is it energetic? And then once we figure it out, we can actually take away or delete some of these negative frequencies and download positive frequencies so that the person has a better blueprint from which to make their body and, other parts of themselves.
And that's the point, is that fibromyalgia is kind of a multiple of issues, and it's like, well, how do I tell you which one is which? Because once they're put in together, they become a great big stew, a hot pot of stuff, and you don't know how to kind of take things out and diagnose it or really look at it. But it's not the only health problem out there. We've got so many people today that are so highly stressed, that are picking up the vibration in the world, that we're seeing more cancer, we're seeing more heart attacks, we're seeing more people subject to disease because they just don't know how to deal with this, almost like a screeching going on from the planet. Mother Earth is screaming at us. She's had enough. We've got the discord of humanity here and animal kingdom. And it's at that beautiful point in life where this is the invitation to change our lifestyles and what really, really is important in our lifestyle. Rather than feeding the problem, let's look to the solution. But we need help on that because we don't know how to do it ourselves.
You're absolutely right on that. We've spent so much time and energy just in our history teaching children the things that we think are going to help them, like they need to understand calculus. Like, really? And other things. And we say, well, art is superfluous, so we're going to cut the art program. And so they learn all these left brain logic oriented things like science and math and, even reading. But it's not a holistic education. We don't teach them about nutrition. We don't teach them about how to balance a budget, how to, make the best of their talents and things like that. So we grow up with a real deficit in this understanding that if we don't care for ourselves, including our bodies, minds, and souls, we can get into dis-ease, imbalance, and eventually get literally physically sick, which is really sad because for the most part, it's preventable.
Right. You also have got people who go, well, it's hereditary, so it's inevitable I'll get it.
Right. And that's a very small percentage of illnesses that are actually hereditary, less than 10%.
Maybe you could get it. So what can you do to prevent yourself from getting it?
Right. Well, you figured out there a little bit. But I was going to say that, very few, probably 10% or less of all the chronic illnesses we have there are genetic. So that means 90% are not. And there's another field called epigenetics, which means above genetics. And Dr. Bruce Lipton is the pioneer of this new science and new medicine, if you will. And it says that our environment, including our mental and emotional environment, actually dictates what the cells do. So if our cells are unhappy, that we have to look at our environment and how we treat ourselves and our self-care, because like I said, most of the diseases are fully reversible. They are based on our lifestyle, based on what we bathe ourselves in, including our emotions, and they're not genetic. And even genetic identical twins, they've done studies where one twin who's 80 years old will be like active in the church, volunteering at the hospital, going to play bridge, fully functional, and the identical twin, same age, same sex, is in a nursing home with dementia and, bladder incontinence. Right. Same genes.
Yes. So, I live with an 88-year-old, and we were talking about that last night because her brother died at 74. And she said, but we've got the same genes. And I said, well, I'm just going to lay it right down. He was a highly stressed man. Everything was a conspiracy theory. He didn't believe anything you told him. You were lying. He'd be angst about the world, and you can't, and they wanted to control everybody. And you can't live that kind of life without the body going, hey, enough is enough. And he had one heart attack, which you kind of, you forget about that. Then the next one killed him. And that
Mm,
is, you had a warning sign there to change. But for
right.
some people, that change is just so difficult, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. People say they want to change, but when it
Mm,
comes down to what we need to be responsible for, whether that be our emotions, our old traumas, our relationship issues, our nutrition, our addictions, our habits. It's a whole other thing for people
yes.
to realize maybe that's, maybe they don't want to do that because it's too much work. It's when
Yeah.
people like you and I go through something that's debilitating, like
Mhm.
fibromyalgia, then we have no options. We either die,
Absolutely.
disabled,
Yes.
or we do something else.
Yeah, exactly. I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that they have got to participate in their own well beingness, right? Mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul. That you are an entire unit. And, like if you're driving the car and one of the tires is flat, yeah, and you carry on driving, it's a detriment to your car. But no, we don't do that. We stop and we change the tire. But
Right.
if we're driving along in our bodies in life, and something starts nagging at us and we don't feel good, and it's just, just brush it off, and we push ourselves through. And if we, the old terminology, stitch in time saves nine. If we stopped and paid attention, I'm not feeling quite so great. What's causing this? What do I need to do? What's the root cause of it, and what do I need to change it before it escalates? Are we taught that? No. Right? It's wait until the cosmic 2x4 hits you before we do
Oh,
anything about it.
that's right. I love talking about that because I was one of these people who would not stop. I was going 1,000 miles an hour, trying to be
Mm,
everything to everyone as a medical doctor, trying to please my husband, my parents, my patients, and trying to be the best of everything. I often say now I'm a recovering perfectionist, and that really just burnt me out. Trying to
yes.
be everything to everyone. And I do find that with people with fibromyalgia, they are sometimes overly generous and not necessarily
Mm.
have healthy boundaries.
Oh boy. Yes. Definitely. Total givers. Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's people say, but you're being a martyr or sacrificial lamb. No, it's in our nature. It's in our nature to make sure that everybody else is okay. And it's okay. I've just been pushed. I'll rest later. It's all right. I'll do it later.
Right.
And
Well,
then
and
later
we're
catches
told to
up.
give.
Oh, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We're taught
But
that
we,
in church too.
we can't give what we don't have.
Exactly.
You oxygenate yourself, right? So when you are abundant in yourself, in every mind, body, heart, spirit, soul, in every way, your cup can runneth over, and you've got
Hmm.
abundance to give. But we have to learn. Okay, I did this many, many years ago when I actually said to friends, I'm sorry, I can't be there for you anymore. Couldn't be there for my clients or anything else. I'm having to spend that time on me.
Yes.
And it actually shocked them. It shocked them.
At
I
first
had
it
to
does,
switch
doesn't it?
off from everybody. Yeah, yeah. And then you realize, hmm, were they really friends? Or was
Right.
I their crutch? And
Right.
without me, they don't know what to do for themselves.
And sometimes we think we're helping by
Yeah.
rescuing, but some of us
Yes.
have to learn the hard way that that's not how you do it. We empower, and that's
Cosmic.
why I love empowering people now, not
Yes.
rescuing them.
Right. Right. Well, ultimately, our health is our choice, well-being is our choice. We've got to know that because what happens to us, we don't always control over. How we react to it, we do. And every time you get knocked down, it's not to keep you there or to tread on you. It's to show you and to learn how to get back up and go, my God, I didn't know I had those abilities. I didn't know I had that strength. I didn't know I had that courage. If I could do this here, what else can I do elsewhere? And you'll always find the teacher or the coach or the counselor right when you need them. But they're not there to be
Exactly.
your crutch. They're there to help you discover yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what you do in your various ways and mediums of doing it. It's like, it's very hard for the mind to start healing the body when the mind is so turmoiled, but it's also very hard to heal the body if the mind is turmoiled. So it is a simultaneous that you have to work on, isn't it?
Well, and I have to admit that despite all the wonderful research over the last several decades about the benefits of meditation, I balked at it. I didn't want to do
Mm,
it. I didn't want to sit there with my eyes closed for what I thought was a waste of time. And even though my teacher was very, very pleasant and compassionate and nice about it, she was not like a dictator telling me I had to do it. I just couldn't convince myself because everyone that I did know doing meditation on a regular basis, and it was just a handful of people, they didn't have like better, happier, healthier lives than me.
mm,
So I'm like, well, why bother?
yeah.
And I'm just my personality is just really really go go go, and I'm my mind's often creating and I'm constantly creating. And what I realized is I just needed a way into the same place of that stillness of the mind through a doorway that worked for my physiology and my personality. And when I discovered it, I figured a way to teach people who are like me. And that's what's
Mhm.
actually in chapter 4 of my Sensitivity Is Your Superpower book, as well as in my Navigating the Clickety Clack. In chapter 4, we have this technique called STOEM, stillness through observing internal movement. And what I found as far as superpowers for most people, even if they're not sensitive, is that about 80% of people have the sensitivity gift I call clairsentience. Of course, you do. People with fibromyalgia 100% do. So they feel it with their body, they
Yeah,
intuit with their
yeah.
bodies, they intuit emotions, and they literally can feel other people's pain physically in their
Oh,
body.
yes.
So we take that talent and we basically, the opposite side or the other end of, if you flip the coin from, to a curse to a blessing, then we
Hmm.
take that talent to be able to have them feel inside their bodies and feel the energy running in their body. And that's the meditation. And it could be seconds at a time. Like, for example, I'm talking to you now, but I'm actually being in that state of stillness at the same time as I am doing something. And that training is something that a lot of people go, oh, that's it. That's pretty simple. I can do that. And what we find is the results speak for themselves. They get automatic healing. They feel calmer. They have ideas. It's like their guide team is talking to them and they can hear
Yes,
them now.
yes.
And just life synchronicities happen, and there's just more flow and little and less pain. In fact, we had 5 people in the Omega Institute that I was teaching there a couple of years ago. And we had 5 people out of 20 who were staff, working at the Omega Institute. And we were doing a free class for them. And 5 of them had pain out of, we asked them what it was out of 10, and 5 out of the 20 something had pain. I just taught them this stillness through observing internal movement procedure, which is in chapter 4 of my book. And within 5 minutes, everybody had like all the pain was gone. And we didn't even work on the pain with TOLPAKAN healing. We just had them
Right,
be in that state of stillness. And they had these are staff. Okay. So they all know how to meditate. So
right.
I just taught them a different doorway in to be in their body and feel the vibration. And that, just opened up the channels, the blocks went away, and they were out of pain just in a few minutes. It was cool.
Yeah, I find it very difficult. With fibromyalgia, it's very hard to get across because you can't get back up. So, um, I find it for me, my meditation form is my mind is always creating. There's a movie going on, there's something going on, and I just let it go. I let it go where it needs to go. And that allows me, especially when you've got kind of methodical work, you could just do your work and the creative mind is elsewhere. I can't shut off completely. However, I adore silence. Like I drive down to my daughter, which is an hour and 40 minutes away. It's a beautiful drive here on Vancouver Island. No music, nothing. You've got the hum of the engine. And I just allow the thoughts to go where they want to go. And they come in and out. And some of them are interesting and some of them leave. But I'm not thoughtfully thinking. I'm just feeling what's going on. And I find it so relaxing. And it also allows me to take in the beauty that's around me and let that beauty feed me and feed my heart and feed my soul. So um, I find distracting that side of the brain and allowing the other one to go where it needs to go becomes very healing for me. I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
doing
that
it
sounds like
right,
a
but
great
that works.
strategy. Yeah, I mean, everyone has to figure out what works for them, and I think you found a wonderful strategy that works for you. That keeps you in a flow state.
Yes.
So that's cool.
Music, of course, music. And one thing I've learned about music is in maybe not the music or the rhythm, it's the frequency of the music. And certain frequencies we get drawn to. And as we listen to it and immerse ourselves into it, it seems to go in and reset our own frequencies in our body. And I can
It
listen to
can.
music for half an hour and just feel great.
Yeah, absolutely. And those of us who are highly sensitive can really feel the difference between different types of frequencies and musics and smell and
Yes.
just even just people, right? We can walk into a room and go, "Oh, I don't like it here."
No, no,
We don't
bad
know why we
vibration.
don't like it.
Yeah,
We just
exactly.
don't like it.
No, the nails on the chalkboard. Oh no, gotta get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody had an argument in this room and no one's admitting it.
No, and it's heavy in there, heavy. And it's like, um, people don't realize, and of course, for seeing it so much right now, there's so much discord out there, so much anger. I mean, they had on TV the other day a guy literally frothing at the mouth and anti government, anti this, anti that, and just literally frothing at the mouth. And all I could think of, oh my God, your poor heart. It is so strained for you to be so angry, and your poor body is just like this, tense all over. And everything in your body is just asking you to take a breath. Take a breath. Just let it go. When we get angry, we get tense. I mean, we get more tense because we're angry, and it's just not the way to go, is it?
Well, I think we need to honor our emotions. And at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time, a lot of times what they show on TV, video, whatever it is there to try to manipulate other
Yeah.
people's emotions, to try to
Yes.
get them upset or them
Stir
angry.
it up.
And
Yeah.
there definitely is an advertising, if you will, agenda to
Hmm.
manipulate, because we know that they spend billions and billions of dollars in advertising to get people to buy stuff, and
Yes.
to do that, we have to get them emotional and manipulate their emotions. So that's why the stillness practice, whether it be through my doorway, stillness through observing internal movement, or some other doorway, it doesn't really matter, where we can be completely neutral. So I can, look at someone who that the great evidence is like, oh, wow, they are really doing things that are harmful to humanity, but I can still look at them with neutrality or even
Yeah.
love, because they are just another facet of the whole, right? Where, like, even demons or angels or whatever people believe, we're just facets of a diamond. We're like different perspectives of it. So, whether one's a conspiracy theorist, a conspiracy realist, a conspiritualist, or
Mm,
whatever, it doesn't really matter what the labels are. At the end of the day, I tell people, I said, my advice is, if you're trying to figure out who to follow, who to believe, I'm like, look for the person that's calm, that's
yeah.
happy, that's joyful, that's generous, that's making a difference in the world, and maybe listen to that person.
Yeah. The when Harry met Sally, I'll have what she's having, right? Because
Right, right.
don't we want to feel good? I mean, let's understand
Yeah,
fear sells. They get you
it does.
feared up, and then now you're fearful and you're in control, and then they come along to save you with their product or with their propaganda or whatever the case is. We've got to be the ones who are a little bit more discerning of what we buy, right? And as you
Right.
said, if you're around somebody that is happy go lucky and just loves life, loves life, and is a person that's jubilant, don't you want to be like that? And if you want to be like that, be around it, because it rubs off on you. It starts pushing all those beautiful buttons within inside of you and starts igniting them.
Right. And the thing is, sensitive people are able to sometimes a little bit more easily sense the energy around, the person. So that's where we can use our sensitivity as a superpower and know who to hang out with and who not to hang out with. And
Yes.
sensitive people have full 100% permission to hang out with people that they feel good with, instead of feeling like they're obligated to feel, to hang out with people they don't feel good with. And that includes friends and family, like
Oh
they
yeah. Oh yeah.
healthy boundaries. And if you get really good at this stone procedure, this methodology, I've actually been in, I do like little experiments. I've been in a phone conversation with my parents, for example, who in the past can be very, very judgmental. And,
Mm,
there was one conversation where they thought for sure I was going to get really mad at whatever they're going to say, because it was like against what I believed or whatever it was.
mm.
Can't even remember, but I thought, oh, I'm going to do this exercise while they're talking to me. So I'm listening to them and not interrupting, not trying to defend whatever my belief was. I was just listening and feeling the energy in my body and just observing that. And I felt really, really peaceful, even though they were saying all this stuff that could have made me upset before. But at the end of the day, I was like, hey, I feel good at the end of this conversation. This is cool.
And that can be quite frustrating for someone who's trying to stir something up in you, right? But the onus is on how we react to it. You know,
Right. How,
all,
yep.
we're all going, always going to be around people. My ex is Oriental, and I know very much kind of the structure that he was and really go deep. And I think because we were in that setting where it's so beautiful and peaceful around there. And
Mm.
the elk wandering around, the ripple of the sunlight on the water, and they've got a hot tub that overlooks the water. And everybody was, even though there's been a lot of construction going on all day because they've just bought it and doing some renovations, everybody got together and it was just an incredible vibe. Even though
Mm.
my son was asking my ex to go very deep into memories, very deep into feelings. And normally everybody would be on defense. But I think it was because everybody was just in that atmosphere so relaxed. I knew it wasn't an attack, it was an appeal.
Mm. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think our intentions, but what we say is actually behind the energy that
Yes,
the intention behind what we're saying. So if that intention is one of inclusion, compassion, understanding, generosity, curiosity,
yes,
then people
yes.
receive it very, very differently than feigned curiosity, and more like, we want you to believe what I believe,
Right.
and that is not going well these days.
No, no, no. Do you find that most people would just like to be understood? Or you may not get all of me. I've had this all my life. I've always been considered a little bit odd. And for a long time, it bothered me because it's, why don't you get me? I'll try and fit in to your box, and only to
Right.
find that it just totally destroyed me. And then I was no longer that person they liked anymore because I wasn't the person, that was before the box. And we really need to stand tall in who we are. I love the word flawsome. I think flawsome is beautiful because who doesn't have a flaw or two, right? A quirk,
Mhm.
a different characteristic. But why can't we be awesome with that? Why do we have to fit into a little cookie cutter? And that kind of expectation to fit in to some sort of society's dictation, I think is very detrimental, and especially to those who are sensitive.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And I believe that probably until this point in time, humanity has been hardwired
Yeah.
in some way to want to belong, because maybe people theorize in the past, if you didn't belong, you were alone, you got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Yes.
So maybe there were some practical reasons to have this need or want to be a part of a community. And now what we're realizing, I like to say, without, I'm not being, denigrating in any way, is that the weirdos, the strange people, the outcasts are the ones that are saving the world. So
Amen. I happen to agree with you. Yeah, back in 2012, I had come out of an investment that I'd made in a new technology. Nothing wrong with the technology, but the people that we were associated with ended up bankrupting me, living out of my car. And I was just looking at humanity and going, I don't care if a bus hits me. I can't take this BS anymore. I just, my senses were just screaming. And then somebody said, "Oh, I like what you've written here and what you do there. Join, would you like to join my podcast network?" And I was, "What's a podcast?" I had no idea. And I joined it. It was live, 13 months. And then I started meeting, now it's 9.5 years and 8.5 years of my own network. But the people I have met, like yourself, who have dedicated without apology their compassion, their conviction, their meaningful purpose into igniting all of our heart and souls into this beautiful orchestra of harmony. It is possible. It is being done. The media doesn't cover people like you. Or if they do, it's a snippet and they'll twist, right? This where the truth lies. Somebody who's gone through the BS in life, somebody who understands what sensitivity is, somebody who's found a way to navigate through it and be flawsome and awesome and just show how we can really live a beautiful life, an extraordinary life amongst the chaos. And thank you for being one of those people.
I'm delighted and very, very grateful to have platforms like yours to be able to share this, wonderful message with people that everyone has superpowers, even if they don't think they are sensitive, because we are all becoming more and more intuitive. At least that is my observation with time. I
Yes.
was doing I'm a kung fu student, and I was doing kung fu with one of the other students who doesn't really believe in this kind of woo woo intuitive stuff. He's very left brain. He's like a computer,
Crazy woo woo.
computer
It's
guy.
not woo.
I know.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is so we're doing this thing called chi sao together, right? We're doing this little martial arts thing, and there was a little error that now I'm a little bit more senior student, so there was an error that he was making. But I decided I wasn't going to tell him with my voice. I was going to tell him with my mind. So I said to
Ah.
him in my mind, I said, "Hey, Gene, you're dropping your right elbow here, and right." And you know what? Within 2 seconds, he fixed it. And of course, I
Uh-huh.
couldn't help but stop and go, "Oh my God,
Right.
you just hurt my telepathy!"
Yes. 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 Right.
And he's looking
We've
at me like,
limited ourselves so much to what we,
"Okay."
where we think we can commit. Exactly. It's there. I mean, we're fascinated with, outer space shows. We're fascinated with Spock, on the telepathy and everything else. And it's like, but it's all within us. We've all got that capability. And it doesn't mean you're going to go into someone's mind and know everything that's going on. But it does mean you can communicate beyond the verbal, the physical. And if we open up to that, imagine the possibilities, imagine where we could go. Because we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we seem to have got stuck as being a human in the body and forgotten our spiritual experience.
Right, and our environments that are around us have been reinforcing that conditioning as well. So one has to step out of that common conditioning to really explore these other areas. And once we discover those areas and realize that we can practice these, or train, if you will, our abilities, it's not some, in the past they'd say, oh, it's witchcraft or it's the work of the devil or some very, very religious people. Again, that's conditioning. It
That
is
was an agenda too.
Yes. So it's just a natural human attribute and ability, something that we sometimes lose or forget in childhood because it's not acceptable and people don't
Yeah.
understand us. Some children, and you may know some of them that they've been labeled as diagnostically labeled as delayed speech or attention deficit or oppositional
Or
defiant
autistic.
disorder or
Yeah.
autistic,
Yeah.
right? And actually, they are very gifted and not in the
Yes.
ways that in the West, we've decided what is smart, you know.
Mhm.
So I've worked with some of these children in my office, and all of them that I worked with are highly sensitive. I had an autistic
Mhm.
child one time. He would not enter the kitchen. He would go around the kitchen to get to the other side of the house. And his mother, who's very sensitive as well, and she's able to muscle test and all these kinds of things, she goes, "I'm not quite understanding why he's scared of the kitchen, because he looks scared." And then he walks
Yes.
right. And we found actually on question, we had to go kind of really deep to figure out what it was. And that's how some of my, TOLPAKAN Healing Method, we figured these things out. There was a dimensional rift in her kitchen, meaning that there was like almost like a gap like this, like a oval shape, that multiple dimensions were available, and he could feel it very uncomfortable there. And this dimensional rift was not specifically trying to harm anyone, it was just there. Who knows how long it's been there. And so what we did is we sealed it. And after we sealed
Right.
that rift, this child just immediately just walked through the kitchen.
Right.
So yeah, so these are unseen things that sensitive people may know, but not as children may not know what it is, or even as adults, we don't know what it is
Right.
until
Yeah.
someone like me teaches them what it is, and then they can, you know, feel more
Well, I'm a
comfortable.
dimensional channeler because I was very sickly when I was a child, and when I got sick, into bed, and I get my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then if I had an asthma attack, my mum may be there. Otherwise, most of the time, I was on my own. There wasn't TV. I didn't even have a radio. A lot of the time, I was young and wasn't able to read, so off I went. People say, "Oh, she's just got a high imagination," but I'd go into other worlds. Now,
Right.
with very often I'll have memory and it go, and I have to stop and think, okay, was this world or another world? This memory
Right.
that I have, and I just naturally think, because no, it can't be this world. I can't remember doing it here. And it's like, oh yeah, right, sorry, you dimensional travel. Yeah, I go into other realms.
Yep.
And it's quite fascinating to have that experience. And it's nothing to be afraid of. Again, if the energies are right, the
Mhm.
energy is wrong, pay attention. That is the same with dealing with people around you. If you're going to get a job, if that energy doesn't feel right, trust it. Please trust it, right?
I've had a
If
lot of
you're
where I
going
did
into
not
a
trust it.
relationship, right, exactly. How many times do we get caught up with somebody in a relationship? It's, the chemical reaction, or he's good looking, or this or that. And then there's that warning sign at the back there, and we're not paying any attention to it. And, we're going to find out later on whether, he gave the old cosmic phone. He said, "Can you hear me now? I
Knock,
tried
knock.
to warn you."
Hello.
Let's talk
Right.
about muscle testing because it's so easy to do, but not a lot of people know how to do it, why it works.
Right. Well, muscle testing is something that is such a really useful tool, because we talk about in my in the Academy of Light Medicine and the TOLPAKAN Healing Method, we call it divine muscle testing. And the only difference in the name is that we first align to the 0 point field before we start the
Mm,
muscle testing. So we first align before we ask. So after we align, then we ask those yes/no questions, and then our body responds with, for example, the sway test, swaying forward or back, yes or no. We can use, one hand, two hands, all these different techniques. But it's best if we can, especially as sensitive souls, align to our inner guru, if you will, our
yeah,
inner source wisdom first. Then we're more accurate, and it's not 100% because we are still human. We still
yeah,
are a filter, and we still have a human body, and there could be dehydration, there could be an attachment to a specific outcome. Generally, people are very terrible at muscle testing lottery numbers.
otherwise there'll be a lot of rich people out there.
Right, right. And people, well, why not allowed? And I said, well, does this evolve you?
Mm,
If it
yeah,
evolves you
yeah,
and grows you, then probably yes, you probably
yeah,
could win the lottery. But for the most part, the people that have won the lottery 2 years later, they're in a worse financial situation than they were 2 years
yeah.
prior. So if that's the majority of people, does that really serve each of us to win the lottery, when maybe it is our role to grow ourselves, to connect to the tribe that needs to hear the information that we are here to share. And that's how we get to what's called right livelihood. And so even though it would be nice, to win the lottery, we don't use divine muscle testing for things like that, because most of the time it's not going to work for things where we have too much of an attachment to.
Well, enrichment and abundance doesn't always transcribe to the dollar sign. And a lot of people have chased the dollar sign thinking that's going to enrich them and make them feel abundant. And many people I've interviewed that have, took that path and realized I was so empty. I was
Mm-hmm.
such a slave to me. Nothing pleased me, nothing connected. And I had to reach rock bottom. I had to lose everything. And then, like a seed, like a flower, regrow and understand and appreciate the earth in which I grew in, the sun that warms me, the rain that waters me. And they've taken a totally different path. And they feel so much more enriched and abundant in their meaningful purpose, in their view of life, the love of life. And if the money is meant to be to further their cause, the money comes, right? But if you do
Absolutely.
it first, you'll be empty because it's the wrong frequency.
Right. And money is just a form of energy exchange,
Yeah,
but that is not the same as a dream or a
yeah.
purpose. And so, yeah, absolutely. If someone has a dream, in fact, that's one of the exercises in my Sensitivity Is Your Superpower book called Stone for Masterful Manifesting. So we get people into the 0 point field, and then we get them to dream up what an ideal future reality might look like, feel like, sound like, taste like, and we have them embody that now, and so that the universe can help match that frequency, that target of where it is you say you want to go. And
Yeah,
like you said, it's not just about money, because money is the side effect really of
right.
your state of being. So if you have something that you desire, and it doesn't have to necessarily be, I want to save the poor children of the world. No, it could be, I would love to dance, right? And be a
Yeah,
ballerina, or it
yeah.
doesn't have to look like this massive philanthropic service at the moment. But when we fill ourselves and we be who we really are, oftentimes we actually help people even though we don't know we're helping people, because of our own inspiration. And
Exactly.
yeah.
How many people are inspired by a story of courage, of comeback, of rediscovery?
Right.
We I had a young lady, Keshi, who was a burn victim from a plane crash, and she was on America's Got Talent, and I'd interviewed her the year before. And I mean, she's very clearly disfigured. She really was 65% of body burnt, and she got out there and immediately the look from people, right? And then she sang, and people forgot what she looked like, and they heard the courage, the strength, the love of the music. And she went all the way up
Mm,
to the end and she came back for the champion show. And I've had the honor of interviewing her 3 times. Every time she leaves me with a nugget,
mm,
something. And it's like the difficult, I mean, like the simple thing of, yeah, the only problem is I itch all the time. Now, like you get an itch, you got to scratch it. Imagine it being all over your body all the time. It could send you mad. But she's chosen to channel that itch in a different direction, like her music, like I am alive. I'm alive and I'm here for a reason. And those kind of people help us look at ourselves and go, okay, you don't have to be a burn victim to delight them, but are you truly living your life in the way you should be living it? Kindness, caring, love, consideration. Are you giving it to yourself? Are you being that light that you would be inspired by? And if not, why not? What's in the way? We've got to participate in our own lives. We've got to ignite that heart and soul in our own lives. We can have people like yourself around there that can give us the techniques and the tools and the encouragement and all the books that you have here, but just to be willing to apply it. So, I always say, you can take the horse to water, you can't make it drink. Leave it there long enough, it's going to realize it's thirsty.
yeah, and having the opportunity is wonderful. And sometimes I'll have people who's been following me for 2, 4, 6, 7 years, before they reach
Mm.
out and said, I've been following all your content for the last 7 years and absolutely love it, and I'm ready now to learn.
Yes,
I'm ready now
yes,
to take
because every
your
time you
level one
speak,
course.
you're seeding. Right, yeah, you're seeding them. The thing is, I think we both admitted we had that rescue syndrome when we had to rescue people, and very often that rescuing is just inspiring them to the possibilities that yes, they can. And every time you do that, inspiring, it's a seed dropped, and you're watering it, and then eventually they're going to realize there's something growing here. And now I need help in navigating or understanding it. But again, it comes back to us, but it will also, but what's the saying? When the student is ready, the teacher is near.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the teacher shows up when the student's ready. Yeah, absolutely. I believe
Yeah.
that too. Um, and there's just thanks to the internet. I mean, there's a lot of negative
Yes.
things, I suppose, but thanks to the internet,
Yeah.
we are as a global community actually getting closer and closer together. It's
Yeah.
really incredible. Like just for me to meet my clients and students and people like my colleagues, all over the world, Australia, Malaysia, Canada, US,
No
UK,
borders. No
Sweden,
borders. Yeah.
Africa. I mean, I haven't gotten anybody from Antarctica, but you know, but it's
It's
so
out there.
amazing. Yeah, it's so amazing, and there's so many people doing awesome work. So if people interview me, or I interview them rather for the level 1 training program, and it's not appropriate for them and not ready for that, then
Right.
there's all these people I can refer them to, and do a little coaching, figure out who's the best fit for them. And there's so many free things out there now, thanks to the internet as well. Like I got a ton of free stuff that people can dive in and see if it resonates. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Find someone else you do resonate with. Yeah, and there's
Right.
yeah, there's no lack of help these days.
And please don't go, oh, I've got to drag my spouse along with me, or my siblings along with me, or my girlfriends, boyfriends along with me. No, this is your journey, right? And if they're inspired by your journey, then it may inspire them to take their own journey. But we can't force other people to take that journey until they're ready. And, very often it can break up a relationship. But if that other person will take the journey too, then they can find their way back, or they just realize they were the wrong people for each other, right? So it's, don't be afraid of what happens because you take the journey, because what is happening is what needs to happen in your life. And if there are people you leave behind, it's okay. You'll connect with them maybe on a different channel, on a different level, but you can't expect everyone to take that journey with you. But please take the journey because it's so important. The more people that do this journey, the more people that step into that self discovery, they've raised their frequency elevation, and
Right.
that sense of love and everything else is now the good vibration the planet is feeling. So sometimes people find it easier. Okay, I'm going to be part of the solution for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to raise my frequency for the planet, and then realize, oh, I really like this, because it's easier for them to go and do something for something else than it is for themselves, whichever way, right? Whichever way works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And our relationships, it's interesting because I think my relationships with my siblings, my parents, my loved ones are better now than they ever have been. And it's not because we agree on things. We actually
Right.
disagree on
Exactly.
quite a bit.
Right. There's
And
no judgment.
right. And that's the thing is I don't talk to my brother about holistic health because he's not interested.
Right. Yeah,
But
my
what
sister.
he is interested in is maybe we talk about the latest movie or the latest sci-fi effect, or he likes watching YouTube videos about foreign food and how to cook it, and what, and I'm like, hey, I could talk to him about that, right? So I'm not so attached to having to talk to him about what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big mistakes that people make when they step into the spiritual awakening. Is like, I want everybody to feel this. Don't you understand? You've got to feel like this. You've got to
I
be like this.
know.
And they start lording it over everyone. It's like
Been there, done
veganism.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And if the thing is, if you're a vegan for a reason, you can talk about all the benefits that it's given you. I had a young boy who was 12, a vegan. He was also autistic, and he's an eloquent speaker. And for
Hmm.
him, and another young boy who was on, and it was to do with the environment, fighting for the environment. As the one young boy who says, I go to school with my vegan food and people ask what it is and why I ate it, I tell them. It's not for me to dictate to them that they should change. It's for me to invite them to want to change.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's all we
We
can
are
do.
like you said, we're the light. So if we're vibrating something that someone else finds attractive, then that helps a lot of people a lot more than people being angry and stressed out and trying to force or shake people awake to negativity so they can do something good.
Right.
It's just not very
Yeah. Yeah.
convincing.
Shame and blame doesn't work.
Shaming, blaming,
Right?
yes,
It
yes.
doesn't
Those are
work.
totally anti-abundant things to do.
I want to quickly go through all of your books because you've got so many of them. You've got, navigating the, what is it again?
Clickety
I've got my
clack.
glasses on. The clickety clack, which is really sounds really interesting. Tell us about that. I see Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, and Christy Whitman. That's featuring them as well. And the how to live a peaceful life in seemingly a toxic world, which we're in. We're in, no doubt about it. We're in a toxic world.
Yeah, so this is a compilation book with some big names, as you mentioned, Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul Guy. And it was
Yes.
a great honor, to be in the book with these luminaries. And it was all about different different leaders, what they have went through themselves in terms
Yeah.
of going through a clickety clack, which is like basically a friction in our lives, and then how we overcame it, and then inspiring others to, we have a couple of tips on each of our chapters on how other people might be able to do the same. And then I like, these chapters are really fairly short, so you can read one and go, oh, that does resonate with me, or that doesn't resonate with me. Go to the next author, in their chapter. And so I think this was a beautiful, book for me to be invited to be part of, because my whole shtick these days really is that peace within. They say
Yes.
peace is an inside job, and I never
Oh,
understood that,
yeah.
because I thought I have to make people peaceful out here, but now I really understand it's vibrational and frequency.
Be the
Um,
peace you seek.
Right, right. Yeah, because the bigger the energy we are in that peace or joy or love, we actually help entrain those around us. And that's what I found with my family and friends, is that we would argue before and it would be really stressful. And now I can be in this big bubble of peace. So whenever I'm talking with them, even if we disagree, it doesn't amount to any negative energy being exchanged. It's
Yeah.
really lovely.
Not taking it personally, right? Which is important because we're inclined to
Absolutely.
do that and get on the defense. You've got the evolutionary healer, which is a very interesting one.
Yes, so that one is definitely a lot more esoteric. Some of the topics we talk about are very, very strange, and at the same time, if people are really diving in down the rabbit hole in terms of spirituality, my chapter is talking about something called the alternate self syndrome. So this is something I've observed, having done thousands upon thousands of healing sessions with my clients and patients over the years. Is that there was a point in time a couple of years ago where I noticed, long story short, that our timelines were converging. So for those that are understanding the term past life, there are alternate lives, which can affect us even physically. And I was
Yes.
noticing that certain people, literally, like I had one woman who had a heart attack where she didn't really have the risk factors for that in this timeline, but she had all the symptoms of a heart attack. And I found out through, doing our muscle testing and the TOLPAKAN Healing Method, that her alternate self did have a heart attack. And so what we did was we actually shifted a blueprint so that it wouldn't manifest in her physical body in this timeline. And so we even figured out which artery it was that was unhappy. So we did energy healing and clearing to get the body to behave, if you will, in a more harmonious way. And she was able to get off all the medications. She had absolutely no heart damage. And I mean, she didn't want to be on medication, right? And they gave her this
Right.
bunch to take. So she was thrilled. And it was just a very, very short but precise light medicine clearing and healing that we did for her. So that's the chapter. There is a self-healing 3-step process in my chapter about how to do that for yourself.
Excellent. And again, The guidelines are there, right? It's just a question of application. Then you've got the Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, the holistic approach.
Right. So that was my first number one bestseller, and it's kind of a tome. It's about 416 pages. Um, and it's the out of the scale, it's the least esoteric, because that's more kind of medical doctory, holistic health practitioner advice. But it does go through body, physical, mind, mental, emotional, and spirit aspects of our lives. And so there's a chapter on how pain can have to do with forgiveness. There's a chapter on nutrition, which is a big one because there's a lot of data there. There's one on releasing emotions and the various different ways to do that. So I tell people, if they have, chronic physical pain of any type, to, after they read the introduction, just kind of flip to the book,
Right. What
just
do I
flip a
need to
page
know?
open,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
What
And
do I
go,
need?
what do I need to know? Exactly.
Yeah.
And read it and see if it
Yeah.
resonates with them. So that one's a little bit more accessible to those that may not be into necessarily the deep spiritual stuff that I do now.
Right. But a good introduction. And of course, you've got a whole load of jewelry here too. Do they have all a kind of an
Yes. So the Ascension 3 jewelry, I'm wearing a piece right now. And these are energy infused with some of the healing energies that I use in my healing practice. Oh, not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, you're back. There we
There we
go.
go. Okay. So the Ascension 3 jewelry is infused with 5 different frequency sets. Two of them, Ascension 1 and 2, are something that I co-created with the universe. And it's part of the TOLPAKAN Healing Method. And it's a kind of a quick way of deleting negative energy or downloading positive energies. And then we also have infused into the crystals and the jewelry hiddenite gem frequency, which is very highly spiritual, compassion, love, and actually protection, as well as the Schumann frequency, which is EMF protection. And there's data, there's experiments been done with that frequency from the company that I use to infuse these. And then there's the flower of life. So a pro-life, frequency. And so that's all infused. And people, I have a free 21-day mini course that's on YouTube called the Ascension 3 21-day challenge. And people can use this to help them, release negative emotions, negative curses, help shore up their boundaries, download positive, energies to themselves. And so it's kind of a quick go-to and a little bit of a little protection as they go out throughout the world, especially if they're sensitive.
And the thing is, people don't realize how much crystals and stone and and everything else carry these energies and how it can reset you. Like things like everything else. So always something there that can assist you. And you've just
Right. They're assistive
got to be kind of
tools.
yeah.
Yeah. So we won't need
Yeah.
these tools once we are 100% conscious at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't met any human yet that can do that yet.
Right. And somebody
So,
has to completely and utterly switch off from the world.
well, it's just that
uh,
it's like the ability to engage fully in the world and be
right.
vibrating at that
Yeah.
0 point field self, despite no matter what's going on. So literally, sorry for the graphics, but literally they can have a gun to their head and
Yeah.
still be in that space of peace because they just
Absolutely.
know that that is, they can vibrate that peace and joy and no matter what happens. I mean, that is that full consciousness. And so these are tools to assist people as we make our way to that level.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes we just simply need that energy assistance, and it's okay. And you have that particular thing that you go to. I've got crystals all around me here, another energy type devices, and it just like I'm feeling low today, or I'm haven't got the energy today, and you know that these kind of things just help you put you on track, right? And then we've got this sensitivity, for the superpower. So tell us about this latest book, because I know we've talked a little bit about it today and about being sensitive and all of that, but you've got a lot in there in the sense of, the tools and the skills that we can live. We don't want people to desensitize. We want you to live sensitively because it's a beautiful place to be. It's just how to manage it, empower it, and not let it overwhelm you.
Right, absolutely. So using it as a gift rather than perceiving it as a curse, as something wrong with you. People,
Mhm.
you don't need to be fixed.
No, no.
And it's just a matter of, being responsible, self-responsible in a positive way for your energy field, because we're not taught that in school. And if you go to, Chinese medicine school, maybe yes, but most people aren't aware that they have different parts of them, including an energy body. So we are responsible for discerning and cleansing and taking care
Yeah.
of that energy body, so that what we discern is, for our highest and greatest good. And then we can actually use our manifesting powers, not just our intuition,
Mm.
but our manifesting powers to create different realities like weather magic. In fact, we do this so often. It was like raining cats and dogs for the last week or so. And we had a construction crew coming this week that was going to dig our new leach field in our septic. And so my husband's like, we gotta do weather magic, so we're both on it. Now, the step by step is in chapter 13 in the book, Weather Magic, and a child can do it. So it's just a matter
Mm.
of, number one, just accepting that, oh, maybe I do have this power, to direct, and influence the weather when it's for the highest and greatest good. And then when you actually do it, the hardest
Right.
part is just not listening to the news.
Yes, yes. Switch it off. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many times where, there's one of the stories I tell is my then 14-year-old niece. It was Christmas. It was we were visiting her the first time in Texas, and it was supposed to be tornadoes for Christmas, and all the other adults were upset about the tornadoes for Christmas. So I turned to the 14-year-old. I said, "We're not going to have tomatoes, tornadoes." I said, "Do you want to do some weather magic?" And she goes, "Ooh, what's that?" Right? So we teach her how to do this. And I said, the hardest part, Ryan, is going to be this. The other adults are going to show you all the news about how awful it's going to be, and you have to ignore it.
Mm.
And you and I will just bump elbows, wink, wink, and we just keep on our track what we're manifesting. We
Right.
keep seeing and experiencing our ideal reality. And she said, "Yep, I can do that." So sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The other three adults were like, "Oh, it's going to be a horrible Christmas," and all the stuff, right? And we're just like, nudging elbows and going, "Uh-huh."
Mhm.
We're doing weather magic, right? And sure enough, Christmas comes and the clouds clear. It's a beautiful, partly sunny day. The niece and my husband's like jumping 3 hours on the trampoline. I mean, the other adults couldn't believe it,
Right.
and of course one of them still had to complain that there was too much wind and we couldn't barbecue the steaks we bought. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I'm
Some
like,
people are
so
never
here I'm trying to set
satisfied.
an example for
Yeah.
this 14-year-old, right? So I'm like jumping on this trampoline too. And I'm just like, okay, hang on. Archangel Uriel, we could really use your help if you could turn down the wind in about half an hour. That'd be really great. And that's exactly what happened. The wind go turn down. We had our barbecue, no problem. And so finally, one of the other adults were like, "You guys did good."
Yeah. I love talking to the trees and nature and everything else, but I remember there was a certain avenue of trees that I used to go down with my dog. And I went down one day and the leaves and the trees were really loud. And I said, guys, you've been really loud. I can't hear you. And from brrr, it just came to a complete stop.
Yep.
And then as I went down the avenue, a slight rustle here and a slight rustle there. And I said, that's better. you know, we don't realize the energetic power that's within us. And why do we
Mm-hmm.
turn to prayer? What are people praying to? They're praying to a God that they have to feel vibrationally, that they have to trust is there. They're praying to an energy and they're just hoping their prayers are going to be there. But if you actually measure those prayers, with frequency device, you'll see how many hertz are put out there, how much vibration, how much frequency, and the higher the frequency, the better. We see this with energy healing. We see it with energy, being around positive people, how it changes your entire chemistry in your body. This is science. And the beautiful thing about it today is scientists are beginning to recognize the importance of higher frequency, good vibrations manifesting, and realizing this isn't wooey, that there is actually some scientific fact behind it.
Right, absolutely. There's so many people in this field that are pioneering. One of the movies I highly recommend is a recent one. called the One Field movie, where they had Lynn McTaggart and Lee Carroll and Greg Braden. They were talking about how, like, for example, Lynn McTaggart, who's an investigative journalist now working with multiple different scientists around the world to prove this phenomenon of coherence and consciousness.
Yes.
She would, on a Zoom no less, teach
Mhm.
people a meditative, just in 10 minutes to meditate. And this area, I think the Gaza Strip, I think was where they were measuring with an actual energy device, and found a huge shift from this chaotic energy to, like,
Yeah.
went down to this peace energy during the time of meditation. And none of these people were physically there at the Gaza
Right.
Strip. Just the investigator was there, and Lynn was in a different place, and she just had all these people in a room in different parts of the world meditating simultaneously. So there is growing data that this stuff is real and it works, and we just have to, really accept our superpowers.
There's a movie, I think it's Netflix, and it's about mushrooms. I can't remember exactly what it was called now, but it's all about how the mushrooms help things regrow. And then there's a Judy Dench movie out there, a documentary, which is literally they're seeing the fiber optics from the trees. Dead and alive.
Oh,
You mean, you look forest,
it's
it doesn't judge a
amazing.
forest. Oh, you're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too crooked, you're too dead. The forest is constantly nourishing and communicating with each other, and they've got the slow camera, they're actually seeing all those fiber optics coming out and connecting. That's us, folks. We've got to learn how to connect with each other peacefully, because when we do, we fortify each other, we strengthen that
Absolutely.
beautiful energy.
Yes, be like a
We become
tree.
the orchestra, the choir. Yes, exactly. It tells us how to think. It shows us how to be in tune. It shows us how to go in. You talked earlier about knowing what to do. I cannot and will not argue with my core. And if my core says don't do it, I won't do it, because my core has said, and I just simply will not do it. I don't need to explain to anyone, but my core is that pushback and that no, this is not for you. And I'm an explorer. I many adventures I've gone down, and some completely blind, deaf, and dumb. But if my core disagrees with it, I'm not doing it. And that you get to
That's
learn.
fantastic.
You get to learn, don't you? You get to learn, when to push, when to explore, when it feels right, when it's just that little bit of trepidation, or the exploration jitters, and when it's simply not the path for you.
Right, right. That takes some practice. It takes some commitment to
Mm,
learn, but this is all learnable stuff. This is not
yeah.
hard. It's just a matter of us making it a priority. And some of us are dragged into it kicking and screaming because we so want to hang on to what we were taught and what we're conditioned to think is right or good, or being productive member of society. And now it's like I've gone 180 degrees and
Yes,
going, well, forget about what society thinks is right or good or whatever. I need to filter that through my own consciousness.
exactly.
And because if I've done most of my life in the past trying to please people and it never worked,
No.
why did I think after 35 years all of a sudden it would work? No. So now at
Yeah.
my mid 50s, I'm like, no, yeah.
It took me to my mid 50s, darling. So you're ahead of the game. And it was
Well, yeah, I
bending
got really,
your
really sick in my mid
pretzel.
30s. So
Trying to be everything what everybody wanted. And it's like, I'm not pleasing them. I'm not
no,
giving them what they want, because they want this from you and it's not enough. Now they want that. And it's like, just be yourself. You may not be everybody's cup of tea. You're going to be somebody's cup of strong coffee. It's okay. Just resonate in your vibe. Be that light. The people that feel you and see you will join you. And if they don't, they're just not there yet.
right. And I love the term that you coined earlier, the flossom. That is really,
Awesome.
really awesome.
Yeah.
Flossom is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And please, if you're looking for perfection, oh my God, you're going to let yourself down, because whose idea of perfection do you think it is? However, there are perfect moments of euphoria, of connection, of words that we can't think of because that feeling is just so that there isn't a word to describe it, right? That's perfect. But this idea of what you should be perfect because society dictates, that's slavery.
That's correct. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And we enslave ourselves most of the time. So
Oh,
it's up to us to free ourselves too.
yeah. Now, how do people get hold of you? You know, you've got your own radio show as well. When does that air? What happens there? And also, how do people get hold of you with everything else?
Well, the best place to go is karenkan.com. So that's my name, KarenKan.com. And you'll see that there is a button at the top that says media. So there I have a blog as well as the Light Warrior radio show where I interview different experts in different fields having to do with health, wellness, and spirituality. So that is super, super fun. So I do
Yeah.
that once a week on Mondays. And then every weekend, I actually launch a new video on YouTube in various places called the Spiritual Medicine Digest. And that is me tuning into what's going on in the world right now, energetically and spiritually, and just kind of reporting that. And we do actually a little mini healing during that as well. So we often will ask people who watch the video, what did they feel and experience, after receiving the mini healing? And when people are on my email list, which you can be just by getting any of the freebies that I have, we actually do mini healings every month. So we
Right.
do, I connect on an hour, we connect on, a Zoom, and I just, send healing to everyone, but also pick out certain people just to demonstrate a TOPAKAN healing methodology. And so they can find out what is really going on with them and just show people how the divine muscle testing works, and just give them examples of how they can use their superpowers, to heal themselves in a faster way, faster than the speed of light, I like to say.
Right. Yeah. And doing this every week, it's kind of like a little mini cleanse, isn't it? A download. Getting rid of anything that may have accumulated in the week and just be able to refortify yourself, which is help the next week. And muscle testing. Um, Very often, I don't know what decision to make, or I don't know which way to go, and that muscle testing will tell you, what's wrong here and there. It's when we get used to using that as a technique, it can be really awesome, kind of.
Yeah, it can be really powerful if you know the kind of question to ask. And so I always say to people, my claim to fame is not necessarily that I have to be the most powerful healer on the planet. I want to
Right.
make everybody else their own most powerful
Yes.
healer. My claim to fame is knowing what questions to ask and teaching people how to ask those questions. And that's where the magic is. And as a medical doctor, sometimes it's really helpful in certain certain symptoms and certain issues to know what questions to ask. For example, I had somebody who was having the need for vitamin D. So she would muscle test that she needed vitamin D. And then I thought, well, let me just do a vitamin D level. And her blood levels were super high. And I thought, okay, so your muscles test is telling me you need vitamin D, but your blood levels are high. So my medical doctor brain said, well, that means she's not absorbing it, assimilating, or utilizing it. So it's just floating around the blood doing nothing. And that's exactly what it was. She was not, there's vitamin D receptors on every cell. So we checked this receptor. The receptor was not happy. So the vitamin D was
Mm,
not doing anything. And so we figured it out with some sort of like curse 80 generations back on mother's side or something crazy like that.
right.
We cleared the curse. She was able to, repeat the blood test, and the vitamin D was at appropriate level. Her need for vitamin D went down. Actually, she had some, but it was just really neat how we can
Yeah.
be that precise using muscle testing.
Yes, exactly. But as you said, with that medical, knowledge there as well, because sometimes, well, why is this like this? And you go for the guessing game. So if you've got somebody who actually knows the body as well, then it's like, as you said, to ask the right questions. They're always seeking the answer, but are you asking the right question in the first place? Right.
Right.
So
And not
start with
everybody needs to know all the
right.
details. It's only
Yeah.
the people with the highest responsibility levels that
Mm,
sometimes need to know. So when we go into that stillness space, oftentimes I call it the auto healing space, because a lot of things automatically heal on their own without us even knowing what it is, because we don't need to know what it is. It's just old stuff. And
Yeah,
that's the beauty of
you know,
it.
you don't know. You go into a mechanic and go, "I've got this funny clunk, clunk, clunk sound. I don't know what it is." The mechanic is trained to know what it is. You're not meant to know it all. Just like to recognize there's a problem, right? And then to establish what it is and who can fix it. So, yeah.
And I do have at the back of the Sensitivities or Superpower book, there's a whole bunch of list of freebies back here as well. So I just wanted to give people your link to the book, because that
Mhm.
link has $1,000 of bonus gifts and downloads
Wow.
from myself, as well as other spiritual and holistic health leaders, MP3s, healing meditations, courses, classes. That's part of this book launch. And so if you go to karencan.com/Sarah Troy, all one word, that'll go to Sarah's link to my site, and you'll see the different options there. Now, if you do buy the ebook, it's $7.77. And then that way, you'll support Sarah's work and my work at the same time. And you just fill in, your order number, and then you get the bonuses. If you buy it, if you want a physical book and you want to buy it on Amazon or some other place, just let us know what the order number is. And again, we'll send you those bonuses. Either way is good.
Excellent. And just to let people know, Sarah is SARATROY, Sarah Troy, no H there, just in case. But and thank you very much for that generosity, because you're giving so much knowledge and abilities and yet you're still giving to the people that are, supporting you. So thank you very much. It's rare and it's beautiful. Thank you.
My pleasure,
So,
and thank you for inviting me.
oh, my pleasure, being an absolute delight. Karen, K-A. selfdiscoverymedia.com search engine, and her entire page will come up, link to all of the books and everything. And please, this is your assignment. Everyone, go
Home
dive
play.
in.
My mentor says home play. I'm like, wow, I like that word, home play, not homework, home play.
It's a good idea. But we know that if you've listened to the show for this long, then you know that there's something that's connected with you. Don't kind of switch off and go, that was this thing. Really start diving in now, because you listened for a reason, and you may not know what it is right now, but maybe it's the book. Maybe it's going into a site. Maybe it's the YouTube. Maybe it's reaching out to her in person. But please do, because you've listened for a reason. Now explore what that reason is. Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. This has been fantastic.
My
Until
pleasure.
next
Thank you,
time.
Sarah.
And remember, folks, yes, the answers are out there. Do we have the right question to ask? But remember, you are awesome in your flawsomeness, and every single one of us can elevate to that higher frequency. We've just got to know how. And Dr. Karen here has really got some beautiful answers for you and wonderful solutions for you. You've just got to apply them. So feel worthy enough to invest in yourself and really want to be able to shine bright, because we need you in the world. We need your light. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com, and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.